What's up, Doomers? If you're here from part 1A of this Big Muff deep dive, then thank you. And if you don't know what the hell I'm going on about, you might want to go back, check my channel, and watch part 1A to freshen yourself up. But without further ado, let's tuck into some Big Muff pie. Okay, so let's do a little more talk on the Electro Harmonix Big Muffs. These reissues, they're kind of self-explanatory. They do what they do. We've heard some positions from these. Let's hear that tone bypass again. Let's hear that tone bypass compared to a muff that otherwise has some mids. How is it compared to the Moon? Because this is an op amp, right? You notice the tone knob doesn't work at all on the reissue, whereas the Moon, even though we flick this little tone shaper, you still get used to this filter. So that's quite a difference between the two, although they're sounding pretty similar. What do you think? Actually, there's way more mids there, isn't there? Let's put the Moon in the middle. I think the Moon, it's not that it's got less mids exactly, it's that it's retaining a load of low end that actually, that goes, I think, from the reissue op amp. Let's see if the tone in compares to anything on the Moon. I'm gonna try tone scooped first. It's presumably what it is. That's more scooped. That might be the most scooped on the board, but that's pretty flat again. I think they sound similar, but they're definitely not the same, are they? They're definitely an op-amp muff. I think that's what we're hearing in common. It's got this character, but all the tone curves are way different. Let's look at the Deluxe, because it's such a beast. It's so underrated. I don't know why all these boutique muffs are recommended before a Deluxe. Just try a Deluxe, because it's got everything. I mean, it's noisy as shit. Oh. You know what isn't noisy as shit? The Moon. The Hoof is quiet because it's low gain anyway. Noise, 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 noise. Surprisingly little noise considering this. Is amongst the most saturated on the board. But then again, I think that might be, even than the Hizumitas, which seems a lot less saturated than I hear people talking about. It's certainly gnarly, certainly got a lot of distortion, but saturation, the winner's got to go to the Deluxe Big Muff. So with that, let's have a look at some of these controls. I still haven't got to the controls. There's just so much to talk about it. So in theory, that is just a standard modern Big Muff. You get it in the tone wicker with the option knobs off. You get it in the little Big Muff, the nano Big Muff, the modern big box NYC. That's the sound you get. But we can add this attack feature, which is strange. I'm not sure whether it's a clean blend or what it's doing, but that seems to be the key to getting over towards the sounds of like the Green Russian and then the Hizumitas. So let's put some attack in. So it kind of opens up the mid-range like putting an overdrive into a muff. Is it clean blend? Maybe. It's fucking aggressive, whatever it is. And then, of course, you have a gate. And so if you don't like that noise, there it goes. A good gate at that. You could even make it a kind of faux sputter. It's got no release time, it just stops. The thing is with big muffs, when you play with that much gain at an actual band volume, it's way too much. It's way, way, way too much. So having a gate, if you wanted to make more tighter riffs out of it, is just Satan send. Nice. Okay, so then we get to what it really is the secret weapon of the Deluxe, and it's this mid boost. So we don't need a tube screamer, we don't need a haunting mids, an EQ or anything like that, and we can take this guy into the realms of any one of these, basically. Any one of these that still sounds muffy. I think I can get it to sound like the Moon. I'm going to give it a go today. We could even get it to sound like the Pharaoh. Let's try that first. Let's put that in and let's give it a whack load of mids. Low Q means it will be a wider bump. High Q means a tighter bump. So let's see where that is. I think there's actually have more attack from that. Did it? Was there a timer on that? I mean, the thing is, these are so intuitive that you can just make it sound like however the hell you want very quickly. It didn't take much to get me to the absolute ballpark of the Pharaoh, where I would normally set the Pharaoh, by the way. We will see that it can do a lot more, but that's where I'd normally set the Pharaoh. Why aren't I just using Deluxe Big Muff? Well, probably because it's an extra large portion. Oh, and by the way, no, that mid button doesn't work when the whole pedal's bypassed. You can check back on another video. I think, what did I put that in? I put it in Buff Your Muff, that the Deluxe can sound like Hizumitas. So go back and check that out. I'm gonna make it sound like the Moon now. So that's quite a lot of upper mids, I'd say. We might even need to switch the Q on it. Definitely got more sustain. So just listening side by side, I can sort of start to get a sense of where the Moon is sitting in its mid-range. Even though we've got it on the flat setting, it's got a certain peak in the mid-range. And then I can just find that out. Seek and destroy with this frequency knob. This is actually proving harder than I thought. It's getting close. Are you gonna hear that in the mix? Maybe. But the Deluxe will get close, right? I've shown you it can get close. And by showing you how close that was, I think you'll believe that it gets close to the reissue op amp as well, just by that. So we're gonna move down to the Earthquaker devices. The Hizumitas, I actually find it's fairly straightforward, right? It's very bassy. In a band, it can still get lost. I often see it recommended as the one to use to solve the issues of getting lost in a mix. I don't think it's going to do that compared to something like the Pharaoh or the Deluxe, even the Moon at this stage. It's still got very much a stooped character. But let's listen to the Hoof. The really cool thing about the Hoof is that shift and tone knob. This wasn't on the original, by the way. There's a video out there with a very early serial number on a Hoof that Jamie's looking at. I think it's on the Earthquaker channel. But this mid-centric control really does help a Muff get out the mix. But we can really scoop it again. So that shift all the way up, you fully shift the mids out, and then you compensate a little bit on the tone knob. And I don't know, let me know what you think. Does it really sound like the rest of the pedals on this board? I don't think it does. I think it just sounds like its own thing now. As I've said before, this is my favorite Muff. This is the Son of Pharaoh Black Arts Toneworks. It's exactly the same as the Pharaoh. Interchangeable which one's my favorite. And I've been playing it on the high mode silicon clipping, and it is surprisingly bassless. Someone tried to tell me the other day that it's got loads of low end and too much low end. No, but you can get a bit more of low end out of it. So the controls are quite intuitive. This is a high control. That does fuck all. When the tone is in, it actually just pushes a little more mid-range. It's nothing to do with high end. It adds a little more mid-range between the two. When we put this tone down, we're essentially nearly bypassing it. We then use this high end, it actually suddenly becomes more effective. And if we whack that up compared to the tone completely down, fuck, we get a load of volume out of it. I told you I could get something as loud as the Hizumitas. And we get a little more low end. We also have some clipping options. So this is the germanium, and it suddenly goes really quiet because germanium is quiet. So how does that germanium compare to the Hoof? Quite a different character of EQ between them, but that is pretty germanium-y, a bit more tame. But what you can do with the Pharaoh is completely bypass the clippings. This is nothing, no clipping, and I'm already turning it down because I know what it does. Compare it to Hizumi. So at a very similar volume position. Don't know how the Hizumitas does that. It's just got a humongous output buffer. I don't know. The low just basically cuts input, so you've got less gain overall. So the Priestess, she deserves her own video, but for a quick overview on this one, we've now got the mids, an actual mids control, unlike the Pharaoh, right? When it's down, it's a bit more scooped, and we can bring that right back in and we get into Pharaoh territory. We're right along there with Pharaoh, but instead of clipping options, we now have two different stages of clipping. Let's start with them both off, and we'll see that the volume jumps again, just like the Pharaoh being bypassed. That woofy thing, I actually find it's kind of tone bender like in its like Mark 1 and 2 kind of bark, but also kind of fast attack. And when we turn clip 1 on, you can hear it basically clip in the top end. So it gets really squelchy. And then if we hit clip 2, I know it goes really quiet all of a sudden, and we're into that kind of familiar Big Muff territory. We've got the extra clipping stage in there, giving it a scoop, giving it a lot more top end. So a lot of flexibility to be had with just those two toggles, and particularly that big fat mids control. But not unlike the Deluxe Muff. I'm going to drop it in there again. The Deluxe Muff is fantastic, and if you're wondering what Big Muff to buy and you might have just enough room on your board, buy that one. I'm going to wrap it up there. So I hope this has given some takeaways. I'm thinking a lot of you are going to comment which muff I've missed. I'm one man with too many big muffs for sanity, right? But I'm willing to get more, and I'd really like to do a part 2 where we do another 10 big muffs. Then maybe at the end of that we can combine it and have a 20 big muff comparison, rapid fire, side by side. So do let me know your recommendations. If you want individual reviews of any of the pedals you see here, like the Priestess, which gets like no attention online, or fuck it, I'm doing the Priestess anyway. And with that, thank you for sticking around. If you're here at the end, I love you, but fuck you, Doomers.